Hi wine friends and happy Wine Wednesday. If you are new, I'm Allie from A Glass After Work. Thanks for joining. So today I want to share the 2019 Beaujolais Nouveau. If you watched my Beaujolais Nouveau episode from 2018, you know that I am a big fan. For me, Beaujolais Nouveau Day is the real start of the holiday season. If you are not familiar with Beaujolais Nouveau Day, it is the third Thursday of November, so it's going to be the week before Thanksgiving. And yes, it is entirely a marketing holiday. I admit it, but I still love it. So it just kind of is what it is. Basically, what happens with Beaujolais Nouveau Day is that in Beaujolais, France, where they grow the Gamay grape, they harvest their grapes, and then in 6 to 8 weeks from harvest, they manage to ferment, bottle, ship, and sell what they call their Nouveau grapes, since they're brand new, and get them out to consumers so that we can get a first taste of what that year's vintage is going to taste like. There aren't necessarily a lot of bottles of Beaujolais Nouveau because really most of the Gamay is used to create the real Beaujolais, but it's still a fun, festive way to start the holiday season. Here's what I will say about Beaujolais Nouveau. I do think that if you're going to drink it, you should basically start drinking it from when it's released in mid-November. Drink it all the way through US Thanksgiving, through Christmas, through New Year's, and by mid-January, let it go. Don't drink it after that. At that point, it is just going to decrease in taste. This is really meant to be bought and consumed quickly and enjoyably. Most of what you'll see is going to be under $15. The wines I'm going to share with you tonight were all 15 or under. And so with that, why don't we dig into the first bottle? So I am going to start with the Georges Duboeuf Beaujolais Nouveau Rosé. And last year was the first year that they released the rosé, and I looked all over for it and I couldn't find it, and I was so disappointed. This year, when I saw it in Whole Foods, I not only grabbed one bottle, I grabbed several bottles. I was not going to miss the opportunity to try the Beaujolais Nouveau Rosé this year. And I'm really glad I did. So this isn't going to be the first time I'm tasting it. We've had a couple of bottles at this point since Thanksgiving has passed. We had one when my folks came up for Thanksgiving. I tried it myself the first night I got it. So there's been a few bottles. It costs the same amount as the regular Beaujolais. They were selling it for $13. I will say, even before we do a review of it, if you see it, grab it. Don't hesitate, grab it. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. And that color, just look at how pretty and pink that is. Oh, it's so great. All right, so you can see pink with a little bit of orange, nice salmony color. On the nose, lots of raspberries. I would say it's lots of strawberries and cream. Really good cherry notes. I'm always surprised every time I take a whiff of this wine how much there is actually going on in it. I don't expect a Beaujolais Nouveau to be super complex. It isn't super complex, but it's real fruity. It's got great red characteristics. Maybe there's even a little bit of orange zest in there. So it's definitely fun. All right, why don't we give it a taste? Cheers. Oh, yeah, so the cherries are super dominant in the mouth. Definitely getting more of that orange zest, some really tart, really juicy raspberries. I think that's what I'm getting in the rosé, but to be honest, I don't necessarily want any more than that. That's perfect. It's nice and light and super drinkable. Very food friendly, and I highly recommend it. So, all right, why don't we move on to the red Beaujolais? So this bottle, the Domaine Descroix, is from a small producer in Beaujolais. It's a family winery. It's owned at this point by the fourth generation. When I say it's small, it's really small. It's 27.8 acres of land. So we're talking about really small. I have had this one before. Well, obviously I haven't had the 2019 vintage before, but I've had this winery's Beaujolais Nouveau before because my local wine shop, Decanter, which I've grabbed some wines from them and discussed them with you guys before. This is the Beaujolais Nouveau that they carry. And I was lucky enough to get their last bottle. They do pre-order and they had a bunch of walk-ins, and this was literally their last one, and I grabbed it on my walk home on Beaujolais Nouveau Day, and they were already almost sold out. Like I literally grabbed the last bottle. So it was 6 o'clock and they were done. So craziness. And you can see it's a really, really very purple wine. But look, that's what I'm gonna expect from it. Deep purple with a watery rim. It's gonna be super young because it is super young. All right, we'll give it a sniff. Oh yeah, okay. So definitely like candied strawberries and juicy raspberries. Actually, I'm getting a lot of rose petal. I know some people don't really like the smell of roses. There's definitely a lot of that like velvety rose petal on the nose. Maybe something a little herbaceous, but yeah. All right, why don't we give it a taste? Cheers. Oh yeah, this just screams cherries. So lots of cherries, lots of tart raspberries, definitely some rose petals. Super low tannins. I'd say light to medium body. And we've got a little bit of acid going on. So part of what's going to make it super food friendly is that high acid. So don't be afraid to pair it with whatever you're thinking about for Christmas dinner. If you celebrate Christmas, the turkey, the ham, you know, any of that's going to go really well. It's quite lovely. It's an easy drinker. I also think that if you're just going to cuddle up with a book and a fire, now that the weather is colder, at least here in DC, we're certainly not having the snow that some of the rest of the US is having, but this would be a great kind of warm and settle into the night type of wine without having super high alcohol or having to worry about some of those concerns with a bigger and heavier wine. So great. With that, let's try one more. It wouldn't be Beaujolais Nouveau without trying the classic Georges Duboeuf Beaujolais Nouveau. So I have that. And while we're getting set up, I thought I would just share a little bit about this vintage. Apparently, the 2019 vintage was a bit of a tough vintage. So it sounds like it was a cool winter, followed by an early spring that included a pretty heavy frost in April. That was unexpected. And after that kind of freezing in April, there was a heat wave. So those extreme temperatures just in themselves are not going to be great for grape growing. But then in mid-August, there were some pretty severe storms that came into Beaujolais, and they had really heavy winds and rain and some hail. And at the end of the day, about 30% of their crop was destroyed. So I know I actually had some trouble getting the Beaujolais Nouveau. My one local wine shop, they usually get 2 or 3 cases in. He said that they ordered them and they never got any. My parents were saying that they went looking at their local wine shop for some Beaujolais Nouveau, that their local wine shop usually gets about 8 to 10 cases in, and that they didn't get any this year. So I suspect that with 30% of the crop dying off because of the weather, that really impacted their sales. At the same time, the grapes that have survived have so far good, really good juice. So why don't we give a taste to this last one and see what's going on with the most famous of the Beaujolais Nouveaux, the Georges Duboeuf. So when we take a look, this is also still super, super purple. Because it's so young, it's not actually going to have that different of a color from the other Beaujolais. So not surprising that it's still super purple and super dark. But interestingly, they do smell very different. I will say the Domaine Descroix is much more rose petals in it, where the Georges Duboeuf is much more. I don't twirl as well with my left hand. Sorry. Yeah, so I will say the Georges Duboeuf they're both fruit forward, but there's definitely some more floral petals in the Domaine Descroix. But still getting kind of raspberries, cherries. I'm also getting that same orange peel notes that I was getting in the rosé. They're much stronger. I would say I'm getting like full on orange peel and not just the orange zest that I was getting in the rosé. Really very nice. All right, cheers. Oh yeah. So cherries and orange peel, like that's what I'm getting, mixed in with some really tart raspberries, some good juice. It's definitely light bodied with some good acid, no tannin, so it's easy to drink. I'm a sucker for the marketing, I admit it. But I think part of why I'm a sucker for the marketing is that at the end of the day, it's also still really good everyday wine to drink. And so if it wasn't, I probably wouldn't fall for it, but I do. So good marketing, good wine, great price. Some of the Georges Duboeufs have different labels. There are also contests for artists to get labels on the Beaujolais Nouveau. The one I opened tonight is a Beaujolais Nouveau that I grabbed at Trader Joe's. They were selling it for $10. The Beaujolais Nouveau at Whole Foods has a different label. They were selling it for $13. It's the same wine. It's just different artists' wine. They're trying to make sure that they kind of cover all the bases. And like I said, it is good marketing. So yeah, so lots of different labels. All the same wine, all really good. If you see it, grab it. I'd love to know, did you have a chance to actually taste any of the Beaujolais Nouveaux? How do you feel about Beaujolais Nouveau Day? Do you participate? Are you interested, or do you kind of stay away from the whole thing? Let me know in the comments down below. And with that, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate those. If you aren't already a subscriber, you can do that by clicking on the icon or on the subscribe button down below. But don't forget, also click on that bell because it'll notify you when I upload a new video, which is going to be every Wine Wednesday. And if you're looking for a recommendation, you can find one right there. Thanks for joining and happy Wine Wednesday. Cheers.